Hi everyone, my name is Khurshid Batliwala and I hold a master's degree in mathematics from IIT Bombay. I have always been fascinated by the skies. Ever since I was a young child, I would always look up in the heavens and be in utter wonder and utter awe of what mysteries could be hiding up there. I still remember my first time when I got a chance to look at some stars. It was in the Orion with a really good telescope, and I was wonderstruck by the amount of stars that were there. It was like a Christmas tree had lit up. After I finished my master's degree in maths, I chose the unconventional career, at least back then, of becoming a teacher of meditation and yoga. And I have been associated with the Art of Living Foundation, and I have been teaching courses on meditation, courses on pranayama and yoga for the last 27 years. Where astronomy seems to be the science of going outside, meditation is the science of going inside. There is quite an adventure waiting for us inside as well. I used to often wonder what the ancient people would have thought when they saw so many stars in the sky, when they saw the planets, when they saw the moon. They must have made some amazing stories, and their imaginations could have taken them on many flights of fancy. I was amazed at how mistaken I was about what I thought ancient India knew about astronomy. As a teacher of meditation, it has been my privilege to meet many experts on this field. And what I'm going to tell you is just a little bit of what I learned from them. Just a few glimpses of what ancient India really knew that hopefully might pique your interest. For a very long time, everybody assumed that the earth was flat. The concept that our planet was round is first mentioned around the 5th century BC by the Greek astronomers and scientists. If you check out the Sanskrit word for the earth, it is Bhugol. Bhu is Bhumi, the earth. Gol is round. Sanskrit is a language which people date to be even 7, 8, 10,000 years old, maybe even older. It stretches back into antiquity. And the word that we had for the earth, which was known to every little child in this country, was Bhugol. It was a widely known fact that the earth was round by the very nomenclature. The other word for the earth is Jagat. Jagat is jiski gati hai, that which moves. So the earth was never considered to be stationary. We always knew that the earth was moving. The Sanskrit term to describe the solar system is Surya Mallika. Surya meaning the sun, Mallika meaning garland. So we knew way back that the sun was in the center and the planets were moving like a garland around the sun. Even if you look at the Navgraha statues that are there in all the ancient temples of India, you will see that the sun is kept in the middle. We had already a heliocentric view of the solar system. On a full moon night, if you ever gaze at the serene beauty of the moon, the one thing that you will conclude is it's white, isn't it? The moon is white. Yet as far back as the Atharva Veda, there is a shloka which says Chandra Madhi Krishnam. Chandra, moon, Madhi, soil, Krishnam, black. They said that the soil of the moon was black. And this was verified only when we actually landed on the moon and we got a sample from the moon and we realized, oh my God, yes, the soil of the moon is black. This is not a coincidence. This is an insight. This is deep thought. Let's turn our attention to the Scorpio constellation. Yes. In Scorpio, there is a star called Antares. It's considered to be between the 10th and the 15th brightest object in the sky. If you think about it, ancient Indians definitely knew a lot of science, right? So if something is not so bright, it would not be much of a stretch of an imagination to conclude that it is much smaller than the more brighter objects in the sky, isn't it? So now Antares is the 10th to the 15th brightest object in the sky, yet it has been named Jeshta by our ancients. Jeshta means the oldest one, the biggest one. Indeed, Antares is one of the biggest objects in the sky of what we know. It is 12 times the size of the sun, and if Antares was put in our solar system, its size would be somewhere in between the orbits of Mars and Jupiter. It is really, really, really big. How our ancient people concluded that it was so big is something that we can only wonder about. When I was in the 7th or 8th standard, I remember being asked a question, which star is closest to the Earth? And the answer my professor expected from me was, of course, Proxima Centauri. I surprised him by saying, it's the sun. But yes, the sun is a star which we kind of take for granted, and we call it the sun. And the next closest star to us is in the Centaurus constellation, and it's called Proxima Centauri. Proxima Centauri is approximately 4.2 something light years away from the Earth. Do you know what our ancients called Proxima Centauri? Mitra. Mitra means the one who is close. Is that a coincidence again that they named the closest star Mitra? Right? This also shows that they knew the difference between planets and stars. Here is the modern value of the speed of light. Now just listen to this shloka.
तथा च स्मर्यता योजनानां सहस्रम् द्वे द्वेशते द्वे च योजने एकेन निमिष अर्धेन क्रममाना नमोस्तुते.
One nimisha is the amount of time it takes you to blink your eyes. One nimisha. And a yojana is around 8 miles. There is a lot of debate about this, but if you take the yojana to be somewhere near 8 or 9 miles, this particular shloka that we just heard is actually a formula to calculate the speed of light. And if you check out this value, you will find that it is remarkably close to the modern value of the speed of light. When people get married in the traditional way in India, the husband and wife are asked to step out of the mandapam and look at a particular star in the sky called Arundhati Vasishtha. Now, Arundhati and Vasishtha were supposed to be the ultimate married couple. She was always devoted and totally loved her husband. And Vasishtha, the great Rishi, was the most amazing, loving husband that you could think of for Arundhati. This is amazingly illustrated by this twin star system, which, by the way, in modern nomenclature is called Alcor-Mizar, that the two stars rotate around each other. It's not that one is in the center and the other rotates around it, but the two stars actually rotate around each other. Their destinies tied in a synergistic dance. just the way a husband and wife should be. Like, it is not that the husband should be in the center and the wife goes around him, or the wife should be in the center and the husband goes around her. It should be that the husband and the wife dance their destinies, keeping each other's interests, passions, and love in mind. I could go on and on and on about astronomy, but I want to end with two things which are not really astronomically related, but absolutely fascinating even then. The first is, if you look at the pillar standing outside the Qutub Minar in Delhi today, it is made of iron, and that iron is rust proof. The terrible pollution of Delhi, the crazy fumes, the moisture, all that has done nothing to this pillar. There is no doubt about it that it is iron. There is no doubt about it that it doesn't rust. And till today, we do not have the technology to create rust-proof iron. Also, it is not a pillar that is unique or alone. There are many such pillars scattered all around the country, some in very, very remote villages, which meant that the ability to create this was not an elitist thing, but normal general people knew how to make them. So, rust-proof iron would be a dream, and that dream had been realized a long time ago in this country, and we have still not figured out how to make it. To end, I would like you to listen to this particular shloka.
Gopi bhagya madhuvrata shringishodadhi sandhiga khalajivita khatava galahalarasandhara.
As you can see from the translation, it is one of those many shlokas that are there in the praise of Lord Krishna. But there is a secret here. If you take ka, ta, pha and replace them by 1 and so on as is shown in this table, then this particular shloka is actually the encoded value of pi up to 31 decimal places. You know, the first time I saw this, it really blew my mind. These guys knew how to do encoding. These guys knew the value of pi. These guys did this in a form of a devotional poem, a shloka. I had goose pimples when I first heard about the Katapayadi Sankhya, as it is called. If you are wondering how our ancient people knew all this, my pet theory is it's because they meditated. You know, India, I guess, is the only civilization in which science and spirituality were never at loggerheads with each other. In fact, all our scientists were saints. They knew to go outside, you also have to go inside. And this is, I guess, one of the most important messages that ancient India has for India today and the world in general. I hope you will also consider going a little inside as you continue to explore the mysteries and beauty of the outside. Thank you very much.